Welcome to day 3 here in Las Vegas at Thomas & Mack Center. This is Shot Talk, where we're going to preview Blazers and Clippers. My name is Alicia Solomon. I have here my SBC classmates with me, John Hartofillis, Adam Kirchoff, and Miguel Hidalgo. And we're going to start by going back to Sunday night where the Blazers won against Charlotte. Guys, let's talk about the shooting and the efficiency that they had. John, you want to start us off?
For sure. I mean, they were really efficient that entire game, and it obviously was really telling as to what we can maybe expect of them tonight, shooting so well from the field and really proving that they're a team right, that maybe has had some experience playing together, has maybe had some reps, and maybe they can replicate that again tonight.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Portland shot 51% from the field and 44% beyond the arc, so that's pretty exceptional. And like John was saying about that experience, going into Portland's last game versus Charlotte, we paid extra attention to those veteran players who were brought onto this Blazers Summer League squad this year. Those being former number 2 overall pick Michael Beasley, as well as Kenneth Reed and veteran point guard Emmanuel Mudiay. So
definitely. And they also had 2 players that actually stood out. You have Antonio Blakeney, who had 27 points in just 18 minutes, so he played exceptionally well, only missed 1 shot, 9 of 10 off the field goal, 2 of 3 of three-point line, so he was actually very effective in the limited minutes that he played. Also, George King, 17 points, 5 of 6 from three-pointers. So they had these players that were very effective in limited minutes, adding to the versatility that these veterans bring.
Right, and it's interesting that those veteran guys go off because, Antonio Blakeney spent, he's 24 now, and he spent 2 seasons with the Chicago Bulls, actually won G League Rookie of the Year with the the Windy City Bulls, the affiliate team, and he was sort of a microwave scorer off the bench. He kind of reminded me of Nick Young, how he used to play for the Lakers a little bit.
He lit up China. He actually averaged 34 points in the League of China, so he can score the ball. We just have to see if he can transition over to the NBA and be effective in a limited role.
Absolutely.
That's such a big part of all this stuff, right? Is how many we've seen all these guys play in all these other leagues. How can it kind of transfer it over here? And we saw maybe in the first game how they kind of did a pretty good job of it. Now we'll get to finally see here in game 2 how that really takes shape.
Very important for Blazers. They shot 93% off the free throw line, so they actually were very effective in the line. Very important if they're getting fouled, especially in the paint.
And let's go over to the other side of the Clippers, who lost to the Bucks on Sunday, and neither of them shot the ball well, actually. So let's kind of go from there with Clippers in Milwaukee.
Well, no, they both definitely didn't shoot the ball well, but defense really was the hallmark of that game, with the Clippers actually fighting back after being down 18, which I think obviously shows a lot of their resilience for such a young team. So they really just all got to finally meet each other recently. With the draft coming so soon and Summer League coming so fast, it's pretty telling as to that, the fact that they're at least a tough team. We'll see if that really proves itself again tonight. Hopefully they can get up to a better start for them, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Absolutely, and like Alicia, like you mentioned, neither team shot the ball well. The Clippers, they shot 41%. Milwaukee shot 37%, and then you look beyond the arc, Clippers shot 25%, Milwaukee 21%. So, yeah, it was really a game of defense, but I think some of those sloppy turnovers down the stretch ended up allowing the Bucks to regain the lead, even though the Clippers, like John, you mentioned, had that great comeback. But that's what you see with Summer League. It's very much a transition game, and the fast pace of the game is something that really stands out.
Yeah, it's very important to keep in mind that this is a young roster that we have here with Clippers. Daniel Altuve is the only one that has an actual contract with the Clippers. Jay Scrubb played marvelously, 24 points, 10 rebounds, leading the way for this team. They need to be more consistent, obviously, especially when they're shooting at a 75 field goal attempts. You need to make at least 40% to be effective. So they shot 41. They need to be more effective. They need to rebound better. So they have a lot of room to grow, especially when they're so young.
Absolutely. And then kind of shifting over to the younger guys they have. Keon Johnson, he had a chance to tie the game at the end of the game, but it rimmed out at the buzzer. But getting into Keon Johnson, he's someone that I really think was one of my favorite players in the draft, and I think he has the potential to be one of the sleepers in this draft. And he started out playing the game a little later in his life. I think he started playing just right in high school. And despite not having that fully developed jump shot, he truly has the groundwork for evolving into kind of one of those ideal 3-and-wing players if he can get that shot. But right now, he's a dynamic athlete. He zips to the line. He's like a zip line as he moves down the court. So he's can get smarter with those reads and that basketball IQ, but I think that'll come with time.
And he will be better. He will be better. He shot 4 of 16, so he had a bad offensive game. He will be better just with reps and getting comfortable with his teammates. It will be better for him while the Summer League goes through.
Absolutely. And I think especially for a Clippers team that is looking to win now, he's someone that's not necessarily going to need to come in and produce right away. He's a raw talent now, but I think the Clippers might have gotten a steal down the line for sure.
I'm thinking about someone like Brandon Boston Jr. Maybe someone we didn't see too much of playing at a powerhouse high school like Sierra Canyon. With obviously everyone knows about Bronny James, but now he's right here with this Clippers team, giving them some solid depth off the bench, helping them out in ways that I think that could really help them out in this game. And we'll see how it'll take shape in a short while.
So let's talk about tonight's game at 8 p.m. We have Clippers, Blazers, and Miguel, you want to start us off? What are you going to expect tonight from these two teams?
Well, we're going to see a contrast of styles, to be quite honest. We see a Portland team that's very veteran-driven. They have, like my colleague just mentioned, that they have Michael Beasley, they have Manu Moutier, they have Kenneth Faried, people who have had experience and were high lottery picks at their point. Against a very young team, I mean, the Clippers have only one player over 24, while the Portland Trail Blazers have 10 players over 24. So we're going to see a contrast of styles. When you're younger, you tend to be more sloppy with the ball, commit more turnovers. You're still getting used to the game at the speed that it goes. While if you're a veteran, you try to take things more slowly, try to take a better pace for you. So I think it's going to be a contrast of styles. The team that is able to implement their style is going to have to win today.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to really see how this summer league play can potentially rejuvenate these veterans that we're mentioning. Potentially there's just so many avenues that veterans can come back, through Exhibit 10 deals, through things like that. It's always something to watch through summer league. And the thing is, these three veterans that we mentioned, they didn't really overwhelm the stat sheet scoring-wise. But if you look at the box plus minus, all of them had the three highest positive net ratings across the board. So I just wanted to see how you guys thought that how summer league can be an effective way for some veterans to look back to get in the league.
Super effective for those veterans, and obviously gives them that platform. Right, we maybe remember them from 5-6 years ago. Now finally get to see them now in shape and see how that all plays out. Game one, in most cases, right, especially when these teams are meeting each other for some of the first times, is almost a tune-up game. That's why I'm so excited for this game too. We'll get to see these teams after having maybe worked out some kinks in game one. We'll see how they could fix things up here in game two.
And they'll play well. They have to play well. They're looking to get back into the league. So they're going to have to play their best. They have that pressure inside of them to be able to get back, to show that they're still worth a huge contract. Michael Beasley was the number 2 pick in a very stiff draft. I mean, he was with Derrick Rose. And quite frankly, I'm looking forward to seeing how these veterans actually impact the flow of the game, which is very important for the Blazers.
And you look back to Kenneth Faried. First round pick in 2011, Manimal. He made all those highlights back in the day, and he was a member of that Team USA team that won that FIBA Gold back in 2014. And Miguel, maybe you can talk a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. He was certainly a game changer. They beat Turkey in the final, and the tournament was in Turkey. So he translated well to the FIBA game because he was so explosive. He's an undersized power forward. Let's be honest. He's 6'8", so he's able to actually move better without the ball. And obviously having his teammates, he had Steph, he had other players that may have had more attention on them. That way he was able to use his explosiveness. He rebounded very well. So he took advantage of the opportunity, and he got a gold medal with that FIBA World Cup. So I think he's going to do well, especially in Summer League. And obviously he's a more veteran player, so he has more instincts that those that are coming into the league now.
100%. I mean, if he's one of those guys, especially back then, like you said in those FIBA rules, super physical, right? The Manimal, right, in the NBA, took it over to FIBA and had a lot of success there. It's interesting to see now maybe how he's maybe adjusted his game a little bit to fit maybe more of the modern NBA game. Coming with all these years off, he's a veteran leader on this team. How maybe he's maybe changed some things, and we'll see it over the next few games if that's really taking shape, because that'll maybe help him tremendously get back into the league.
I agree.
Absolutely.
And let's now talk about the trajectory of these teams in the upcoming season. We have Portland, who just hired a new coach in Chauncey Billups, who was doing play-by-play for them the last 2 seasons, and now he's going to be the head coach. So what do you guys expect from Chauncey and his style of coaching and how he can be relatable to players?
Well, so go ahead, John.
Of course, go.
Okay. So, Portland, like you mentioned, parted ways with their longtime head coach, Terry Stotts, and who had actually been there for every year of Damian Lillard's career. He was Damian Lillard was drafted in 2012, and that's right when Terry Stotts was hired as well. But as it's been known, Damian Lillard campaigned originally for Jason Kidd to be the head coach. But the front office brought in Jason Kidd, and I think he brings in some of that same expertise that Chauncey Billups might be able to offer, or the other way around.
Now, in Chauncey Billups, he's Mr. Big Shot.
Right.
He knows how to play basketball. He's a champion. He's a gold medalist. So he knows the in and outs of what it takes to be a winner. And I think that culture needs to be developed in Portland, especially when they have McCollum. They have pieces that they can move and that they can actually integrate to make it better for Damian Lillard. They have the pressure now.
Right.
They have to win now. Damian Lillard will soon be a free agent, and you want to keep him happy, and you want to keep him in Portland. He's been loyal to a fault. Now we have to see if they do justice by him and give him the roster that he deserves to compete in a loaded Western Conference.
Exactly. And I want to ask you guys, the main story of Portland for this past year has been the uncertainty surrounding their star in Lillard, who's been their franchise player since 2012. So, they have essentially told teams that Lillard is not necessarily available, even though that a lot of teams are interested. What direction do you guys think that this Portland team should strive to go in?
I mean, as of right now, if they're going to make a statement like that, they really have to go around building around Lillard as of right now, and that's kind of what everyone's expecting to see. What moves are they going to make this offseason? We haven't seen too many so far, but I mean, this summer league maybe will show maybe what the pieces they have now can turn into down the line. And if they could really show that promise here, it could be very hopeful to maybe see Damian Lillard staying in Portland.
Absolutely. And something else they did this summer was re-upping Norman Powell to that 5-year, $90 million extension with the Blazers. And they acquired Norman Powell, I believe, at the trade deadline for Gary Trent Jr.,
right.
Who also got an extension from Toronto. So how do you guys feel that Norman Powell, as well as some of the veteran swingmen they added, Tony Snell and Ben McLemore, to one-year deals, how do you think that if they decide to just go the retooling route instead of the full rebuild, how do you think those guys can help?
Well, they're actually looking to give versatility. They're actually looking to switch on defense with these players. I mean, you got Ben McLemore, Tony Snell, players who can actually play from the 2 to the 4. In this modern NBA, so quite frankly, they're looking to reload. They lost Carmelo, obviously, during this offseason, so that's a huge loss for them. He was a catalyst for their bench and also that veteran leadership that was alongside Dame.
Absolutely.
So now CJ McCollum has to take a bigger role and be very vocal as a leader. He's just been named the president of the NBPA, so quite frankly, his voice is going to be very important this season alongside Dame, because their uncertainty will cause you to look for leadership. So I think CJ will have an improved role this season. But I think the moves they've done, they have to do more. But what they're doing is try to give versatility so that they can switch on defense.
Exactly.
That's a huge point. Like, how are these other guys going to step up? Everyone's always talking about what moves can be made. How about what the guys that are already there, how they can develop and maybe go into roles that maybe they haven't been in the past, like a CJ McCollum, like all these other guys. It'd be interesting to see maybe how that plays out, and whether it's with the moves that they make or how maybe the season goes, and seeing whether or not Damian Lillard is able to stay.
Absolutely, and it's been talked about since they've been together, but how do you guys feel that the pairing of CJ and Dame works, considering that they're the undersized guards, and we're seeing more of that in the league, with Sacramento taking Davion Mitchell to pair with De'Aaron Fox. So given some of those defensive deficiencies, how do you feel that they can do that if that's what they decide to do?
I mean, there's so many teams that have maybe done it. It goes even further than maybe one or two examples, which shows that maybe it is a formula for success. I'm looking at how they've maybe made some. They haven't gone all the way, but they've made some pretty deep runs in the playoffs. They play well off each other. Obviously, very close with each other. It shows signs that could work. It'd be curious to see if obviously everyone talks about CJ McCollum in trade discussions, if they go that route to fix it, and something that's maybe worked, but let's try to make it better, or if they go some other route to find more success there.
It depends on what the Portland management is looking for. Quite frankly, if they want to keep Dame happy, quite frankly, CJ is the best asset that they can offer other teams to get a star player or different assets that can actually assist him in getting to their goal. But if they see that Dame is possibly at flight at risk, then CJ becomes invaluable because you have to keep him on the roster, him being one of the veterans and two, one of the best scorers on the team. So quite frankly, the management team for the Portland Trail Blazers has a very difficult season and off-season for next year. So quite frankly, they have to take it easy.
And it would be a tough decision to a certain degree to let CJ go, because we have seen CJ in that Western Conference Finals run that the Blazers did 2 years ago. We saw CJ take over those games against the Denver Nuggets, and we have seen that CJ can do that even when Dame is a little bit colder in those games. So he's someone that could take over.
I agree.
Let's go over to the other side with the Clippers. They have Kawhi Leonard, obviously, who's had an ACL injury, but he has an option to do a 2-year deal, probably max out and sign to get the max contract for 5 years. So what do you expect from Kawhi Leonard coming into not just next season, because he obviously won't be playing, but coming up in the following years?
Well, management has a tough decision. I mean, you have a player who's coming out of a partially torn ACL, a player who can command max money, but quite frankly hasn't been reliable as far as health is concerned. So you have to take into consideration, will you give him a long extension or will you give him a shorter deal for a hefty amount of money? So quite frankly, the Clippers organization has to be very, very proactive in what they want to do. they have Paul George. So if they lose Kawhi, they still have a centerpiece that they can use. Obviously, it's better to have Paul George and Kawhi together. They obviously bring some defensive versatility. They can score the ball against anybody. But very important to review, one, Kawhi's mindset of what exactly he wants, what his market value is, and also his health. His health is priority number one besides the money. So quite frankly, it's very important for the Clippers management to take everything into consideration and see what the next step would be with him.
Exactly, and I think because of that injury to Kawhi, the Clippers made sure to bring back their core this summer because they were very close to making a finals run, and the Clippers made their first Western Conference Finals in franchise history. So I think, with Kawhi agreeing to re-sign on a contract that we don't know the details of yet, they also brought back Reggie Jackson and Nick Batum this summer. And Reggie Jackson is someone that really proved himself in that Clippers run to the Western Conference Finals and as a really formidable scoring option. And we've seen those moments from Reggie Jackson, but there were some moments when he was making those contested threes in people's faces, and I'm like, is this Reggie Jackson or is this Steph Curry? It's like he was really making those kind of shots.
100%, and when thinking about what the decision management has in their hands, it really all comes down to, what options do they have? They obviously mortgaged away a lot of their future to put this team together. Right now they're in a situation where they have to go all in. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. Obviously didn't go their way. Where do they go from here? We'll obviously find out soon with the moves they make.
And I want to make sure that Nicolas Batum, he just played with France in this Olympics, and he looked formidable. He had the defensive player of the Olympics. Block. So quite frankly, they want to keep this core together. They want to go all in, like it was mentioned. They have to make a very tough decision, and there are too many variables right now to factor in. So quite frankly, they're going to have a very tough decision during the season with Kawhi Leonard.
And they do have a bit of youth too, because someone that made a name for himself was Terrence Mann in these playoffs, and he's someone who could definitely come out and be that scoring punch and had some defensive moments as well. So he's someone that is super athletic, can get to the rim, can make a shot from outside. He's someone that can sort of do it all. So I think having that balance of the veterans that they have, with their two superstars, but as well having those guys come in, especially from some of the summer league guys that we're seeing, like Jay Scrubb and Daniel Oturu.
And Keon. Keon is very important in the plans. He got drafted this year. He was the number 22 pick in the draft. So he actually set the NBA draft combine record for verticality. He jumped 48 inches. So he's very athletic, very raw still. He came out of Tennessee. We don't know how his offensive game will translate over here. He athletically up over the top. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Defensively, he led the team in charges, so we know he has the basis of how to defend. We have to see if this translates over to the professional level, and obviously he has to develop a better jump shot if he wants to be part of the Clippers rotation, and they are certainly hoping that that's the case in case anything happens with Kawhi Leonard.
Exactly, and like we mentioned before, Keon Johnson is that world-class athlete, and those are the skills that you can't necessarily teach. And I'm not calling him Kawhi Leonard, but we have seen players like Kawhi Leonard, his new teammate, go from not really having a developed jump shot into being, he's like one of the most lethal scorers we've seen in NBA history, off that mid-range especially. And like I said, not saying that Keon Johnson will become Kawhi Leonard, but we have seen that in the past where players do develop a jumper, and it is completely beneficial for their game.
It'll be huge for them to do that. The question is just when. Whether it's this year, next year, how much time do the Clippers have? And it's a question, we're going to see answered in the coming months when we see this team take full force and see how it plays out and how he's able to develop his game. We saw his freakish athleticism. Now, how can he translate it to actually a net positive on the court?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the other side of Portland, where Dame has been, tweeting a little bit, chirping. He possibly is staying, but minds can be changed in the middle of the season. We don't know what's to come. So, John, what do you expect from going forward with Portland and these Dame rumors that they have looming over them?
It's definitely not going to be fun for the entire team, right? With the whole media surrounding them, surrounding the situation. It's almost a waiting game at this point. It's what moves can be made. There may definitely deals around the back that we have no idea about, and we won't know what they are until they go down. But once they do, it might add some more clarity to the situation. And we can maybe get to see more about what Dame's going to ultimately decide to do.
Right.
But management has to be proactive. This is something that you cannot let linger, because it may poison your locker room. Even if he's doing nothing wrong, other players may be like, what's going to happen if Dame leaves? What am I going to do? So they have to tend to this ASAP as soon as possible. So quite frankly, these team rumors may impact how they play, and how they finish the season.
Exactly, and we saw that situation, a similar situation happen with James Harden and the Houston Rockets before he was dealt to Brooklyn. So that's definitely something that teams want to avoid. Miguel, like you mentioned, to avoid that kind of toxic locker room energy that could potentially be created. But given their cap situation, they are in that luxury tax threshold. The Blazers failed to really make any splash this summer, and I think. Like Alicia, like you were alluding to, Damian has kind of expressed a little bit frustration. He has said that he is committed and loyal to the team, but when you fail to make those splashes, especially considering the way that your team is constructed, it's hard to. It's easy to be frustrated sometimes.
And obviously, he thinks that he's an elite level talent. I mean,
Absolutely.
He's a generational player, and obviously you want to win.
Yeah.
The point of this game is to win. So he wants to win. He's a competitor. We've seen it to a fault. And quite frankly, he wants the same loyalty that he's given. He wants to give it back. Just like Kevin Garnett with Minnesota.
Exactly.
He stayed to a fault, then moved to Boston and won. Maybe that's Damian's next target. Maybe he goes somewhere else and he gets that championship that has eluded his career. So there are a lot of intangibles, a lot of variables that we have to take into consideration. Portland's management has to step up.
Exactly.
And so we're just going to go over, you have another game going on currently right now, actually, if you can hear it. Rockets, Pistons with the first and second picks. Guys, what do you expect to see from them coming up? I know Jaylen mentioned that he wasn't picked number one, but he feels like he was. So what is that confidence going into a season where, they're rebuilding?
Well, coming in from Boaz, we hear that that Jaylen Green's actually outscoring Cade Cunningham right now. So at this point, right, he's obviously playing like he's the number one pick. He believes he has the talent to be the number one pick, and it's obviously showing on the court. If he were to keep this up, the way he looked like a superstar maybe in that first game, where he had full control over, he was fluid, everything kind of, he kind of dictated what he wanted to do on the court. We'll see if that's able to continue, and it looks like it's happening so far now in this game against Cade.
Yeah, and I thought he had the showing in his debut, and as it went around on social media, he showed off his shooting range. 13 points in the first half, ended with 23 points on 50% shooting efficiency in that first victory against the Cavaliers. People like we've talked about, even about how Summer League ball, it's so vastly different from the real thing sometimes because of that high turnover rate, the ISO-heavy half-court offense, and the emphasis on the transition game. But I think Jaylen Green has the freedom to flourish as that primary scorer, not only for this Rockets Summer League team, but for the real team in the regular season. Because I think for a lot of Summer League teams that come in, you saw it with the Lakers back when they were stockpiling their draft picks and bringing in Lonzo and Brandon Ingram. When you see the Summer League team for this Houston Rockets team, you're essentially seeing what we're going to see in the regular season.
Right, and people underestimate how important Jaylen's trajectory was through the G League. I mean, he scored the ball at a high rate.
Right.
So we know he can score. Now, we're talking about two players that we expect them to be franchise cornerstones. So quite frankly, with Cade, we know what we got in Oklahoma State.
Right.
But the higher ceiling, we believe, may be Jaylen. So we have two players that can change the course of a franchise. Obviously, they have to put pieces around them for them to do so. Quite frankly, we're seeing two of the best prospects in the past 5 to 10 years, maybe. So quite frankly, I'm very excited about these two.
And I think that is a testament, like you mentioned, to his experience with this different route going through the G League Ignite. And John, how do you feel that, him setting the first example of what a player coming through that path, how do you think that's going to kind of change the game moving forward?
That was huge. Him committing to do that right in the first year of the G League Ignite's existence was very instrumental to the growth of not just the G League Ignite, but the G League as a whole. And seeing that as a route for these athletes to take, instead of going to college, for going that and going to the G League, getting paid, playing against grown men, and really showcasing your talents against really some of the best players in the world. That a lot of those guys who are on two ways or have played in the NBA before have that experience or are playing at a really high level overseas, all playing obviously high level Division I basketball. Jaylen Green played against pros, and now it shows now because he's doing what he did against them right here in the Summer League.
Let's talk about the other side of the Pistons real quick. Pistons got the number one pick in a very long time. They're rebuilding their franchise. They brought in Big Sean to do advertising for them, so they're going in a different direction.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about Cade Cunningham and what do we expect to see from him?
He's going to score. He's going to score. You know he's going to score. You're going to say he's going to score. Go ahead.
I was maybe talking about passing a little more, but he is going to score. He's definitely going to do his thing. Has a lot of control out there on the court. His first game maybe was a little bit sloppy at first, especially to start. But that's what it's all about. He's trusting his teammates. He's a guy that's going to make the guys around him better and continue to do that so far. We'll see how it kind of plays out in games 2, 3, and 4. But even to start out, he's going to be that guy that's going to get his teammates involved, make other guys better, and we'll see if they're able to step up and help him out.
Yeah, and I think Summer League oftentimes can be a touch-and-go way to truly evaluate talent. And Cunningham showed, lots of promising flashes in that debut, particularly on defense, I thought. He struggled a little bit offensively from the floor in his debut. He was just 5 for 17. So, he has those moments where it seems like he could be more aggressive, especially when attacking the rim. He'll kind of settle for those off-the-bounce floaters, and I think once he perfects that, I think that's something that you will see brought to the court, especially in the regular season.
Hey, Cade is awesome. I mean, Cade averaged 20 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists in college. In Oklahoma State, not a big program, so he actually had the playmaking ability to be able to make his teammates better. And he's going to have this same role in Detroit. Detroit is a very young team. They're looking to get better. They have a good start with Cade Cunningham. Is he better than Jaylen? Time will tell, but definitely we have with Cade Cunningham a winner. He was a consensus All-American, Big 12 Player of the Year. I mean, he has the accolades, and he's played for Team USA at the lower levels, and he's won gold, so he knows how to win. Let's see if he can bring that winning culture to Detroit. Voter Cade. Let's see if that actually becomes a thing. Very important, his development with the Detroit Pistons.
Exactly, and with his backcourt partner, Killian Hayes, how do you feel that they fit together?
They fit together pretty well. And Killian Hayes is someone that we've all seen be someone that could really help and play at a high level in this summer league, and maybe even hopefully beyond that for himself to continue to produce at that NBA level. He's helping him out. He's helping Cade out here. And we'll see if they can continue to make each other look good.
Absolutely.
So we're going to wrap it up here. We are going to continue on with the post-game coverage of Blazers Clippers. And, just stay tuned to Shot Talk. We have more to come here. Thanks, guys.